Chris, the clock is ticking toward a government shutdown. What do you make of the meeting this afternoon at the White House between the president and Democratic leader Schumer?
Well, it was interesting. Schumer came out. That's the only readout we've had of the meeting. He said that there was progress made. There still are disagreements, but the discussions are continuing. That's the first glimmer of hope that we have had in the last couple of days. What it says to me is that there are going to be intense negotiations between the White House, Senate Republicans, and Senate Democrats. If they think that they don't have to have a deal, but if they have a real sense that they're on the way to a deal, that there's progress being made, then my guess is they will have a very short-term extension, maybe 4 or 5 days, continue the negotiations, see if they can avoid a shutdown, see if they can make a deal on DACA to protect the Dreamers, on the budget, on several other issues. But if they don't have a sense of that progress, if by 10, 11 o'clock tonight they have a sense we really aren't headed anywhere, where neither side has come to the point where they're willing to really compromise and make a deal, then they'll have a shutdown.
Now, if there's a government shutdown, Chris, who do you think is going to get the blame, and who do you think should get the blame?
Oh, look, there's enough blame to go around. I think it could change over time. Part of the problem right now, Russ, is that I think both sides think that they have the political high ground. That's a very dangerous situation. When one side knows that they're kind of out there, they're the one who's more likely to blink. But I think at this point, Republicans really feel that they can hit Democrats, particularly those who are going to be running for re-election in 2018, particularly in more conservative states. If the idea is you shut down the government to protect illegal immigrants, which is what the Dreamers are, that they can really use that to their political advantage. The converse of that is that I think Democrats believe, one, that just as a matter of course, generally speaking, Republicans get the blame, and given the fact that they have control of the entire government, House, Senate, and White House, that they're going to get the blame. That's one of the dangers here, is I think both sides believe that they have the political high ground and that they can work this to their advantage. And again, that's why I think if we get to the point, and we're not there yet, where we're going to have a shutdown at midnight tonight, then I think it could take some time before one side is willing to say, guess what, I was wrong.
Now, Chief of Staff John Kelly said earlier this week that the president's thoughts about the wall have evolved. The president shot that down the next morning on Twitter. Who's right about all this, do you think?
Well, it doesn't matter who's right. Kelly shouldn't have said it, or he should have found a more graceful way to say it. I mean, let's think about this for a second. Imagine somebody who works for you, your top assistant, sits there and says you were uninformed, your positions have evolved, basic subtext, I kind of wised you up about it. Even if Kelly's right, he's wrong because he's embarrassed his boss, who wasn't very pleased about it. I'm actually quite surprised at how restrained President Trump has been. He did send a tweet out the next day and say, the wall is the wall. I know exactly what I was saying in the campaign, and I haven't changed. But he didn't go after Kelly in the way that he, for instance, has gone after people like Rex Tillerson or Jeff Sessions. So at this point, Kelly should consider himself lucky. There's no question the president's views on the wall have changed, as any president does when they become president after being a campaigner. Governing and campaigning are two different things. But Kelly probably got too far over his skis with the remarks in public.
Right. The Wall Street Journal, as you know, is reporting that the president's attorney arranged for a $130,000 payment to a porn star to keep quiet about an alleged affair with the president when his youngest son was about 3 months old. That story doesn't seem to be getting a whole lot of traction, given all the discussion about a potential shutdown.
Well, I think two things. One, there is other news crowding it out, really important news like the shutdown. The other is, I don't think that kind of stuff really hurts the president in the way that it would every other politician you and I have ever heard of. People kind of discount it. I mean, they've heard so many embarrassing things about this president, career-killing things about this president, the Access Hollywood tapes, all the women who came out after, right at the height of the campaign in October of 2016, and said that he had made advances on them at various stages of his life. And the country went ahead and elected a president. So I think this just feels like old news, even if it is a news story for most people.
I know you're going to be talking about whatever happens in the next several hours on Fox News Sunday this weekend. What else do you have on the program?
Well, we're going to have an interview, a live interview on Sunday morning with the budget chief, Mick Mulvaney. Now, either one, there's a shutdown, in which case he's the one who administers it. He's the one who tells various government agencies, hundreds of thousand employees, go to work on Monday or stay home. If there isn't a shutdown, as I say, the only reason there wouldn't be is because they have agreed to keep negotiating intently into early next week, 4 or 5 day extension, and we'll ask them about that, ask them about DACA, ask them about the state of play. We'll also get the very latest from a top Democrat in Congress. Then we have a fascinating power player of the week. There's a new movie out starting today called 12 Strong. It is what has been until recently the classified story of how America won the war in Afghanistan after 9/11 by sending in teams of 12 Special Forces operators, Green Berets, 12-man teams to join up with anti-Taliban warlords with their tribes in northern Afghanistan, and to drive out the Taliban and to drive out al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan. They did it in 49 days, a historic military operation. We're going to talk to the man who was in charge of those special forces, John Mulholland. You'll see him in the movie, and you'll meet him in real life. And it's a story that is, if you would think if it was a regular Hollywood script, they'd throw it out and say this could never happen. It did happen, and we'll talk to John Mulholland about that.
I can't wait to see it. Chris Wallace, thanks very much.
You bet. Thank you, Russ.